This is Genesis Battle of Champions. Genesis Battle of Champions was a tactical trading card game, meaning that it had elements and mechanics of trading card games. You built your own deck, you drew cards, you played cards from your hand, and summoned things onto the board, and then tried to reduce your opponent's life total to 0. But it also combined that with a tactical movement-based combat system. You could bring characters in to fight alongside of you, but you were all on a gridded board and could attack in different directions. You could move in different directions, and the payoff was getting to outmaneuver and outthink your opponent. And it felt very good when you actually pulled that off. Unfortunately, this game died. Genesis Battle of Champions died last year, and I, for one, was not a fan of that announcement. I liked this game. I had the opportunity to actually go and meet a bunch of people that were playing in the community in the World Championship a few years ago. I did the commentary for the World Championship, and I enjoyed it. In fact, I was building decks all the way up until the time that the game was announced to be dead. But then something interesting and, quite frankly, something miraculous happened. The game was not dead, and it was reborn, purchased, and reformed into, well, Genesis Battle of Champions again. So today we're going to take a look at the re-release of this game. This game indeed was picked up by some very passionate fans who were also savvy business owners and local game store owners, and they knew the business. And so what they did is they picked up the game, they picked up the rights to the game, and they released the next set, and I believe it's doing quite well. So we're going to take a look at Genesis Battle of Champions Invasion set and see the changes that have been made. I will say this, I've heard a lot of good things and a lot of growth, apparently, in the space for this game. So I'm going to give you my own personal opinions of this experience that I just had opening this box up. And again, I'm going to reiterate that this is pretty unheard of. There have been games that have been basically canceled or put on the shelf and then have been reborn via the community. There have been games that have been purchased and then sort of reformatted. I think of things like Legend of the Five Rings. You have Netrunner, which is a very popular game that still lives on to this day via the community. But those games feel like anomalies more than the norm. And as you probably know, if you've been following the trading card game space for any number of years at this point, games that die don't usually come back. And that's why this is such a rare thing. And it's the reason I wanted to look at it. So the first thing I want to make note of as we flip through these cards is how cohesive the art style and aesthetic is. It is so incredibly important for new trading card games to hit the ground running with a packaging that can be easily connected to the game, that is easily recognizable and cohesive to the game. If you don't have that in this day and age in a very competitive market of trading card games, I feel like you're going to struggle out of the gate. And one of the things that Genesis could have improved on originally was a more cohesive art style, a cleaner border setup, and looking at these cards in comparison to the old school borders and things like that, there are some major improvements. I'll put on the screen a couple of older cards if I can pull those up. There's a ton of stuff going on from a UI perspective. There's lots of banners, there's lots of numbers, there's lots of borders, there's lots of text, and it all is centered and put around in different ways that perhaps isn't easy to read or interface with at a glance. This is much improved in my opinion. You're looking at these cards as we open these packs, and there's a lot of improvement made. They've turned borders and banners into icons and colors that just surround things. They've slimmed down how they're wording things. They've put things in better spots and better places so that it's easier to interface with. And that Angel of Words looks terrifyingly creepy with two mouths, but it's really cool and on par for this set. And I think it's really, really well done now. I personally like that we've zoomed in a lot of cases on all of these pieces of art, and right there is our first epic of the box. Epic, the rarity down there at the bottom left, delineated by the red E, shows that this is a borderless epic card. And the cool thing about these cards and the rarity system within this game is that well, in years past and in the printing past, they would actually just do a borderless version of like every card. So you could hunt after every card in that fancy version, meaning that, building that deck out was something a bit more special and a bit more challenging to do. It encouraged you to actually trade. Whereas getting your hands on all the cards was relatively easy. You could buy boxes of the product and, have a full set with only a few boxes, which was good for the way that the game played and was the deck building restrictions, because you could basically build with just about anything. But it meant that the rarity system within this game was encouraging you to actually go hunting to really foil out, or in a lot of cases epic out, whatever you want to call it, your deck. So it was easy to get hands on cards, to build decks, and then to really make them pop. It was much more challenging. So whether you like that or not, I personally thought it was a really smart way to onboard new players, to get them cards. And here I stopped for a moment and I compared the cardstock of old school Genesis cards right there. And this was the Origins print run of that protective barrier. And it felt like the cut was better on those, but the really old, like J. Lara 2 and Rays, those cards had some real rough cuts. You could tell that the printer that printed those did not have great blades. These feel good. They feel smooth, they feel thick, and they feel like they have a nice cut to them, as well as just a good overall shape. And again, I go back to the way that this looks. That Lord of the Hunt, by the way, is a card that was like the first spoiler for how they were going to be reimagining the borders and the templating of the card. And I feel like the templating is just off the charts, so much better than it was prior. Again, it's one of these things that this is a small game. Make no mistakes, no bones about it. This is a game that is growing at the grassroots level, but it's a game that has grown by, from what I've heard, like double of what it was before. There are like double the amount of overall, and look, there's our second epic. That's a beautiful little borderless card, Angel of Bliss. Double the amount of game stores that have jumped into it in the US. It's growing both in Canada and the US. It had some very small following abroad, I think in Germany. In fact, if I remember correctly, the previous World Championship that was held before the game was unfortunately shuttered, was actually won by a German player who traveled with some friends over to play in the World Championships there in Toronto. And I got to go as well and see people and meet people, and also do commentary for that, which was really fun. And that was when this set, I should say, was really being talked about. It was the announcement of Invasion and the announcement that this set was going to be off the charts cool, and people were very excited. And it was a real strange head scratcher. Oh, we got ourselves an epic version of a champion there. It was a head scratcher, to say the least, to see that the game was, being shelved essentially, and the company was being shuttered. The closing of the doors of the previous company. And again, I go back to the fact that you don't see companies buy, the rights to games and then them grow from where they were. That's just not something that you see. So this is an anomaly. Rending Blade there, Gamilla? I'm not sure how you'd pronounce that, but a very cool champion being introduced in this set that allows you to basically pass on your effects of summoning things, abilities and things like that. You can pass those abilities on to other characters that you control around the board. It's kind of cool. And to say that it's a really crazy thing that a company buys the rights to a game and then is able to release it and get into more stores says a lot about what they've changed. I think the aesthetic changes are huge. I think the way that you're able to sell this game as a sort of sorcery-esque type experience. It's interesting because, Sorcery has really popped off as a tactical trading card game that has a beautiful attachment and connection to artists. I would say there's a lot of familiarity and similarity between that game and this game from an aesthetic standpoint, and this has its own unique art style that it really leaned heavily into. But this game and that game, while both being tactical trading card games, do not feel the same. When you play something like a sorcery, it feels like you're playing from a million miles away. It feels as though you are almost a god or a deity that is just watching armies clash and lands flood and things sink and explosions happen. Whereas in this game, it feels very much like a trading card game. It feels very much like you are playing and are being dropped in to an arena where you and your opponent are very close quarters. It's tense. Your decisions matter greatly because your opponent's like 2 squares away from you almost at all times. There are creatures that are filling the board. You have to deal with them to move around. It's not like I can just, do this thing way over here off on my own while this thing happens in the distance. Everything's right there. The game doesn't last very long. It can go very quickly, and decision points matter hugely. And so the feeling is visceral. It's in your face. It's TCG-esque. You're playing things down, whereas I would describe something like a sorcery being much more board game-like and, transpiring over a long period of time, leading to this certain culmination, where this feels like I'm going to punch you in the face, you're going to punch me in the face, and someone's not going to stand back up. And that's a pretty cool selling point. That, coupled with the fact that this is a game that does support limited, it supports sealed and draft, and boom, look at that, we've got ourselves a foil. Something else I haven't talked about. Foiling in this game is very similar to the rarity system. This is a foil of a card we've already opened. And yet, the foiling here, which I think is beautiful, it's got that Japanese card game feel. The foiling here is markedly different in that you're not getting a foil per pack. It's not, I open a pack, I get a foil, which means if you want to bling out your deck and fancify your deck, you have to go find someone that has other copies of Foil Rending Blade, or you have to open mass amounts of boxes, or you have to, find somebody online that, like a store or something, that's opening products so you can get your hands on the foils. So you actually have to engage in the trading card part of the trading card game, and I think that is very, very cool. It's one of those things that I feel like once you've started opening a foil per pack, you almost take it for granted at a certain point that a foil per pack just feels like the foil is devalued. You go on like TCG Player, you're like, foils for this, random common are like 35 cents, not that much different from the non-foil version, so why not buy the foil? And to me, it takes away a little bit from that kind of special experience, whereas you open a foil in this, and that is a very cool, very special card. That foil sitting there is like, ooh, I need to put that into a deck, or I need to look at that. It feels different to open a foil in a game that really has a rarity behind them, and one that I very much enjoy when I was opening this product. Opening that foil feels different fundamentally. Now, whether or not you like that is totally your own decision point. If you don't like the idea of there being, just 1 or 2 foils per box, I get that. I understand that. But to me, it definitely gives it a different feel and a different flavor, and one that I was a big fan of. I think it's something that a couple of games have started to do as well, where they're kind of holding back on the foiling, where it's pendulum swing of trading cards, where foiling isn't necessarily going to be expected every pack, and therefore they're more special when you do open it. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can definitely, have a trading card game that has a foil per pack and still be successful. It's just what feeling do you want to impart, and how rare do you want those foils to actually feel and be as you go. But as we go through the last few packs here, it really does impress upon me that this is a game that was picked up and very meticulously and lovingly crafted and changed and tweaked, and with the intent of improving in every respect that they possibly could. I like the zoom in on the art. I like that they're representing things within the game in cleaner, easier to digest ways. The game already played well. If you haven't played it, I highly recommend that you do if you can get your hands on some product and play it at your kitchen table. I think it's a fun game. It's very easy. It's very quick to pick up and play. They've released starter products along with this. They released 2 starter decks, or at least they sent 2 starter decks along with this. I'm a fan of the little starter products. I thought these were pretty cool, and 2 characters that I think are actually very fun to play as well. You've got Minot here on this one, which is the one I held up, which I think is a really cool one. I was a fan of messing around with Minot, and I know several people that very much enjoyed Minot and ice walls and things like that you could do. And then the other deck was Satyr, if you will. That was a fun one to play as well, which I actually got a Satyr deck there at the World Championships. It does look like there's another foil in this pack. Ooh, look, it's a foil Pretty Bird. And that foil Pretty Bird is, well, I mean, if you're going to get something pretty, you might as well get a Pretty Bird. But again, we go back to the idea that these foils are rare in and of themselves. And that Pretty Bird, I think, is an uncommon originally. It's either a common or an uncommon. But the foiling version of it is epic because it is like in short supply. And so they put everything in, full display to see. And I think it's very cool. I was very impressed by this. And the last 2 packs here, one of them has something pretty spicy, so stick around for that. But I was impressed with how this all played out. I think it's pretty cool to see this game kind of come back, and not just come back, but come back with a vengeance and pop off a little bit. I'm hoping that the game continues to grow organically, and when your company is being helmed by an owner of an LGS, you have the ability to maybe sell your product to other LGS owners in a manner that's easier for them to understand or more accepting or exciting for them to grasp onto. And I hope that that continues, because this was and is a fun game to play, and one that I hope you look into as we open a foil champion in the back, Harlequin, popping out over the text. That is super cool looking. What a way to end a box opening. I was pretty hyped to see that as the last pull in the box. So let me know what you think about this in a comment below. Have you ever played Genesis Battle of Champions? What is your experience with a card game that has been revived? And what do you think about this sort of reimagining of Genesis Battle of Champions? If you like this deep dive into card games, make the number go slightly higher, and we'll see if we can hit 18,000 here pretty soon. As always, thanks for watching.